So Tuesday is the results announcement for the 2019 Baseball Hall of Fame, the class of 2019. And if you watched my video about a month ago, you already know Lee Smith and Harold Baines are going into the Hall of Fame for this class. So this is from the Baseball Writers Association of America. This is going to be their votes, and we're going to all find out Tuesday who is going into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I had wanted to do this video for like over a month. And I was going to break down, all the finalists that are on the ballot. But then I realized that's going to take a lot of time, and I didn't have a lot of time. Because ultimately what I wanted to do at the end, which is what you're going to get here in this video, is I made my selections. If I was a member of the committee for the Baseball Hall of Fame, if I had a vote, I made my choices. And I believe the max you can have is 10. So what I did was I went over the list and I went over everybody's name, to see who had a chance, didn't have a chance. There are some names on here that I knew did not have a chance whatsoever to get in. But there are those who were very close to making the final list. One name I'm going to mention right off the bat that almost made my final list was Omar Vizquel. And the reason I say that is he is statistically one of the best players that has played in the last 25, 30 years, even though he's played for a lot of teams, which I'm not penalizing him for. But still, he, was a very productive hitter, very productive player, but he did not make my final list. So ultimately, I did end up with 10. That was my max. I was going with 10. And what I did, and this one, I'm going to be honest with everyone. This one was a little bit hard because there are some who, you may question if they did use performance enhancing drugs, if they didn't use it. I'm basing this just on their playing ability. That is all I'm basing this on. And it's hard to not put in, the fact that, hey, some of these guys may have used steroids. But ultimately, I did come down to 10. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to go through my pitchers first. I'm going to go through my pitchers. And then I'm going to go through my rest of the lineup. If I had if I was a manager and I had a lineup. So with that said, I'm going to go with pitchers and the first, and I'm doing this in alphabetical order, so not to get everyone confused. So first one is Roger Clemens. Arguably one of the greatest pitchers that ever lived in the game of baseball. Probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, right-handed pitcher in the history of baseball. Only pitcher in the history of Major League Baseball to have 2 games where he struck out 20 batters in one baseball game. Think about that. Nobody else has done that. Kerry Wood did it once, but Roger Clemens did it twice. Everywhere he went, he was very, very good. Boston, Toronto, New York, Houston. He was just very, very productive. 7 Cy Young Awards. I don't know if that's ever going to be topped. Won 2 World Series with the New York Yankees. Roger Clemens was just such a dominating and also an intimidating player when he did pitch. And for him to not be in the Hall of Fame right now, I'm not going to say it's a crime because he is one of those guys that, may have done steroids. But like I said, I'm basing this on his playing ability. And if you look at the statistic, he's 3rd all-time in strikeouts, 7th in games started, 9th in wins for pitchers. You could say he was, the Nolan Ryan of his generation, which is a high compliment because Nolan Ryan is maybe the greatest pitcher of all time, and they're both from the state of Texas. So both of those guys, a lot of respect. Next person, Roy Halladay. I'm putting him in not because he passed away recently, but he was a tremendous pitcher. 16 years, played for two teams, Toronto and Philadelphia. Pitched a perfect game. Pitched a no-hitter in a divisional round of the playoffs. Was a two-time Cy Young Award winner, and was just very good at his position. And I think if he had gone maybe a couple more years, his statistics would be a lot higher. But I think Roy Halladay's accomplishments on the field show, with his team. I mean, he was a part of the Phillies, at the end of the previous decade into early this decade, where they just were winning the National League East year after year after year. And they were just really, really good. Halladay was just a very good, very dangerous pitcher. Not like Roger Clemens, but just a very good pitcher in his own way that, you have to, at least take him into consideration that he possibly gets in. Next one, Mike Mussina, the Moose. This is a no-brainer for me because I saw Mike pitch for the Baltimore Orioles before, we got the Washington Nationals, and he did pitch for the Yankees. Such a very underrated pitcher, in my opinion. And here's a guy who, and I really liked him. I don't think I've ever seen any pitcher come close to getting no-hitters and lose it in the ninth inning more times than Mike Mussina. But when he did have those games, he was fantastic. He was a fantastic pitcher, and he, was a winner. He was a proven winner. Even though he only had one season where he won 20 games, he still had 11 seasons where he won 15 games, sometimes more than 15 games. And the fact that he never won a Cy Young, never won a World Championship, maybe that hurts him a little bit, but it really didn't hurt, as far as I'm concerned, because the watch, the eyes are always something very important when you're deciding who goes in. And I thought Mike Mussina was always a very good pitcher. He was on the Orioles for quite a while, especially during the mid-'90s when they had that run where they got to the American League Championship 2 years in a row. And probably one of those years should have won the World Series. And I think Mike Mussina would have been a big reason for that if they had won a World Championship. And then when he went to the Yankees, it's sort of the same thing. If the Yankees had won a World Championship, and this is when they had Clemens, when they had Pettit, when they had Mussina, he should have won a World Championship. He really should have, but it's unfortunate that he didn't. And I hope people don't hold that against him, but he was still a very good pitcher, and I would vote him in. Next one's an interesting choice, but I got to go with him, Andy Pettitte. Andy Pettitte was another good pitcher. I don't know if he's underrated, but I don't think he's overrated. He was a big name for the Yankees for a long time. Before Clemens got there, he was sort of their number one, maybe their number two pitcher. And then when Clemens got there, he was their number two. Sometimes you could maybe say number three pitcher, but he was still very, very good. Won championships, had 8 seasons of 15 or more wins. Did not win a Cy Young, but he was in the discussion every year, or for a number of years. Won championships. And yes, he admitted to taking steroids. I will say that. He did admit to taking steroids. But I think Pettitte still is a good pitcher, and I think he has a shot to get in. I have him going in. So, Pettitte gets my vote. I thought he was a very good pitcher. Maybe a little bit underrated, but maybe not completely underrated. Next one, Mariano Rivera. I mean, my God, if I did not have Mariano Rivera on my ballot, I think every person watching this video on YouTube would be giving this a thumbs down. Probably would be one of the most disliked videos I've ever done, and probably would get a lot of hate. But I'm going to say this. Yes, I have admitted I am not a Yankees fan. But Mariano Rivera is hands down the greatest closer in the history of Major League Baseball. 652 saves. That might never be touched. Named to 13 All-Star games. Did not win a Cy Young, but probably should have. His ERA in the postseason is under 1. It is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it is ridiculous, but it is so good. And you knew when he did come to pitch for the ninth to save the game, that on most occasions that game is over. Now, granted, he did, blow a couple saves here and there, in the postseason, but it still does not hurt the fact that he was a hell of a closer. Trevor Hoffman got in last year. Lee Smith's going in this year, and I said in a previous video about Lee Smith, if you don't, if it's without Lee Smith, there probably would not be a Trevor Hoffman. There would not be a Mariano Rivera, and Rivera going in is. I think it's universally agreed that he's going in, and I have him going in. I mean, like I said, if I didn't, I think a lot of you guys would probably want to beat the crap out of me, but no, I have respect for Mariano Rivera. I really do, and he's going to go in. And just think about it real quick. You're going to have two of the greatest closers of all time going into the Hall of Fame in the same year. That's quite an accomplishment. My final pitcher that I had voted is Curt Schilling. I know Curt Schilling is a name lately that's been controversial for what he has said, politically, but I look at him as a pitcher, and he was a fantastic pitcher. He really got going, when he was in Philadelphia, and then he went to Arizona, and he and Randy Johnson basically pitched the Diamondbacks to a world championship. And, there was Louis Gonzalez. He was a very good player, but Curt Schilling, he and Randy Johnson were just that 1-2 combination of this era that you probably will not see for a long, long time. And then after that, he goes to Boston. He pitches for the Red Sox, and he is a key factor. He is a key factor in them finally winning a world championship in 2004. I mean, Game 6, the bloody sock, one of the most iconic images, I think, in all of baseball, the bloody sock, and him just pitching his way to winning, that sixth game, which ultimately led to Boston winning the pennant and then winning the World Series. The fact that he's still on the ballot, and this is his 7th year on the ballot, is a little bit surprising. Maybe he's starting to get some votes, going here. But I have Curt going in. I really do. He was a hell of a pitcher, very dominant, especially in the postseason. When you got in the postseason, he was just fantastic. All right, so now I've done my pitchers. I'm going to go to my position players, basically the rest of the players. And the first one, I'm just going to get this out of the way now, Barry Bonds. This is a tough one. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but you can't deny the talent that Barry Bonds had. 12-time Silver Slugger, 8-time Gold Glove Award winner, was the most valuable player of the National League 7 times. I don't know if that will ever be topped. Still has the single season home run record, is the all-time home run leader. Also is the all-time leader in walks and intentional walks, if you guys did not know that. And I think, eventually he is going to get in. And I think one of the reasons that hurt him getting, or him not being in right now, is the way he did treat the press, is how he did treat the media. Because I'm not gonna lie, I think Barry Bonds is a bit of a jerk, but there are worse people in the Baseball Hall of Fame than Barry Bonds. But eventually, Barry Bonds is going to get in. He just is going to get in, and he's a talented player. He really was a talented player. The problem is, real quick before I go to my next player, the problem is I think a lot of fans will remember Barry Bonds more for being this home run hitter, with an amazing slugging percentage, than him being a really reliable left fielder. He was a very good left fielder. And I think that's something that gets overlooked with Barry Bonds, and it's a bit of a disappointment. It's a shame that they do overlook that because he was a good left fielder. So I had to give him a vote. Next vote, Edgar Martinez. This is his final year on the ballot. Maybe the greatest designated hitter of all time. Depends on where you want to go. And again, we got Harold Baines going in, who was mainly a designated hitter. Edgar Martinez played his entire career with the Seattle Mariners, 5 Silver Slugger awards, 7 All-Star Game appearances, won the American League batting title twice, probably one of the most clutch hitters of his time, and he was a big reason why the Mariners won the division in '95, got all the way to the American League Championship Series. He just was a very good hitter year in and year out, year after year after year. And yeah, he's a designated hitter, but I think we're at the point now where, it's like, why are they holding him back? I mean, he came close last year to getting in. I think this year he's definitely going to get in, and I like him. I think he's a very good a very good hitter, and he's going to get in. But I do give my vote to Edgar Martinez. Another name, and this is another one. I'm really surprised he's not in. And I watched the special the other day of on the MLB Network about the Hall of Fame debate, who should get in. This next name should be in. He's not going to, unfortunately, but I'm giving him a vote anyway. Fred McGriff. Fred McGriff, the crime dog. When the Atlanta Braves were big in the 90s, and basically you could not go anywhere on television without seeing the Atlanta Braves, Fred McGriff was a big reason. And he was on that team in the 90s where year in and year out they won the division, they'd get to the World Series on most occasions. And they did win a World Series with him on the team, 1995. Fred McGriff, the crime dog. That's another great nickname. The crime dog, Fred McGriff. This is an underrated player. And the fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame is amazing. Yes, he did play for other teams, but I think his biggest time was with the Atlanta Braves. And my God, he was a big factor. And we do talk about, the pitching rotation that the Atlanta Braves had, which was a fantastic pitching rotation. But Fred McGriff was one of the big players, when you got up to plate, and was such a good hitter. And he was 7 home runs away from 500 home runs. And if you know the rule, once you get to 500 home runs, you're pretty much a lock to get into the Hall of Fame. This guy was 7 home runs short of 500. And he should be in. It's just a shame he's not going to. But I give a vote to Fred McGriff. He was a very memorable player, very memorable character, totally underrated. And my final vote that I do have, and this was a tough one. Like I said, Omar Vizquel almost got in. But I think the person that did get in on my ballot should be in the Hall of Fame. Larry Walker. To me, Larry Walker was the original face of the Colorado Rockies. When the Colorado Rockies began in 93, you really didn't know, they were an expansion team, they were young, and then they get Larry Walker. And Larry Walker was the face of the Colorado Rockies for a long time. And Larry Walker was very good at the plate. One was the 1997 National League MVP, 7-time Gold Glove winner, 3-time batting champion in the National League, 3-time Silver Slugger Award winner, 5-time All-Star appearances for him. Larry Walker was such a good player. He was such a good hitter. And like I said, he was the face of the Colorado Rockies when the Rockies got started. He was the face for a long time of a franchise in its infancy. Really, was like, why does Colorado have a baseball team? And it's really because of Larry Walker that, the Colorado Rockies are still there, and they're slowly getting to be a good team again. But Walker was the original main star of the Rockies. And then, my goodness, Larry Walker, just such an underrated player, really an underrated player. I hope he gets in. It probably won't be this year, but I'd like to see him get in next year. And if he is on the ballot and if he gets a lot of votes this year, when I do this video in a year, he will get a vote from me. So, to do a quick recap, the 10 players that I voted in, if I had a vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame: Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Roy Halladay, Edgar Martinez, Fred McGriff, Mike Mussina, Andy Pettitte, Mariano Rivera, Curt Schilling, and Larry Walker. So who do you all think should get a vote for Cooperstown? Who should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame? I'm going to post a link in the description so you guys can take a look at the 35 finalists that are on the ballot. And I'm going to do a video Tuesday after they announce the results, and I'm going to give my thoughts on who makes the Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2019.